First at 4, a COVID vaccine pause. The FDA looking into rare blood clots associated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Dr. Frank McGeorge is sorting through what it means for you.
Yeah, I'll explain who needs to be concerned and who doesn't, plus whether this has an impact on the safety of the other vaccines.
Also, standing together, the families of George Floyd and Daunte Wright come together to send a message about change.
Jason, sunshine brought us a couple degrees today, but we're going to trade that in for colder temperatures and some rain and maybe even something else as well. We'll look at it all right now. First at 4.
Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News First at 4 starts now.
Good to have you on this Tuesday edition. I'm Jason Colthorpe in for Karen. First at 4, a COVID vaccine setback as federal regulators force a pause in the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The FDA says it's out of an abundance of caution after reports of rare and serious blood clots in 6 women. One patient has died, another is critical. The cases come after more than 6.8 million doses have been given, making them literally 1 in a million occurrences so far. The FDA is investigating and says the pause could last a matter of days. We're tracking the impact on distribution with reassurance from the White House and Governor Whitmer, who isn't changing course at this time.
This is concerning, and of course, I'm going to continue to push for more vaccines to come into Michigan. But at this point, I don't know that there's a whole lot more we can say other than we're going to closely monitor and follow the CDC and FDA guidance.
So we have more than enough supply of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines to continue the current pace of about 3 million shots per day.
Now, in spite of the reassurance, the impact of the pause was felt immediately throughout Metro Detroit. The city quickly halted Johnson & Johnson shots and switched to Moderna and Pfizer. The city is telling people with vaccine appointments, keep them, keep showing up, but they will get one of the other brands for now. Some Detroiters say that's okay, but it is causing scheduling issues for others.
My daughter here from college, and that was the reason me getting the Johnson & Johnson, because it was one shot. So now if they switch to the 2, how is that going to affect her coming back to get the second shot?
I was trying to get the 1 shot, because I wouldn't have to miss an appointment or anything like that. But, I mean, this is just as fine. I just want to be safe, you know what I mean?
The state of Michigan has halted the use of the vaccine for now. We're tracking that shift all over Metro Detroit in the coronavirus resources section on the homepage at clickondetroit.com. Now let's bring in the doc here. We know many of you have questions about what this all means, and Dr. McGeorge, we just heard some people ask them right out loud what this does mean. It puts a lot of this in perspective. What are some of the things people do need to know about this right now?
Well, Jason, broadly, this is an exceptionally rare condition. We're talking about cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. That's essentially a clot in a vein that drains blood from the brain. But on top of that, as it might be related to the vaccine, it's actually even more rare because it's accompanied by a low platelet count. Now, for anyone who had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine more than 3 weeks ago, if you're feeling fine, then do not worry. Now, if you had the shot more recently, the biggest symptom to be aware of is a significant headache, especially if it's accompanied by a neurologic problem like a change in vision or weakness on one side of the body or another. Now, unfortunately, though, a mild headache after the vaccine is fairly common. So really what we're talking about is something that occurs days after and continues. Now, one of the biggest reasons for the pause, in addition to looking at the data more closely, is to make the healthcare community aware of this rare condition and the fact that this type of clot with low platelets should not be treated with the common blood thinner heparin.
And one of the other questions I bet people are wondering too, Doc, is how is this specific, or could this happen with Pfizer and Moderna?
No, that's an important question. This is very specific to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine, actually, which does not have approval in the U.S. Those 2 vaccines use a very different approach than Pfizer and Moderna, and there is absolutely no similar concern with either the Pfizer or Moderna mRNA vaccines. And frankly, our experience with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines with over 4 months of use and 180 million doses has actually been exceptional.
Yeah, really has. Good to get a lot of the information on this out today and keep that conversation going, which we will do throughout our newscast tonight at 5 and 6. Doc, thanks. We'll see you then. The Johnson & Johnson pause comes as Michigan is trying to ramp up vaccine distribution to fight a new COVID surge. Today, the state is reporting nearly 8,900 new cases in just the past 24 hours. Also, hospitalizations are on the rise, near the highest point of the pandemic. 74 new deaths are being reported as well, with half of those coming from a records review. The city of Detroit reminds us vaccine appointments at the TCF Center and Saturday community centers are unaffected by the pause. Right now, there's no immediate impact on the FEMA operation at Ford Field, which is starting to give out second Pfizer doses there. Starting at 5, defender Sean Lake keeps digging into the local impact and how it will change plans for some communities. Then new at 6, Dr. McGeorge returns to talk about why this pause is a sign the safety protocols are working. And of course, we'll dive into all of this in depth during our live primetime special on the vaccines tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's an entire hour with Kim, Devin, and Dr. McGeorge dedicated to your questions about getting vaccinated. In other news now, an 80-year-old woman is killed in a massive fire on Detroit's east side. This happened overnight on Burn Street, close to I-94 in Van Dyke. Crews battled heavy smoke and flames after 3 homes caught fire there. Crews say they found the woman's body this morning. All 3 homes in this are a total loss. Police are investigating what caused that fire. Let's turn now to the first forecast. It looks like today might end up being one of the best days of the week. It sure felt good. It was a nice bounce back. Let's see what Ben says about it. Hey, Ben, how are things looking out there?
You got it right, Jason. I mean, if it wasn't for last week, we'd be really raving about this. But comparatively, these numbers are cooler than those 70s and 80s that we saw last week. A lot of mid-60s out there, but it is breezy. Sustained winds reaching 20 miles per hour in cases, and there are some spots where the gusts are headed up to 30 miles per hour. But we're going to stay dry for the rest of tonight and at least most of tomorrow. Temperatures cooling pretty quickly with those mostly clear skies. We're going to go from those 60s this afternoon on down to 48 by midnight and continue dropping as we head into the overnight hours tonight. Your 4-zone forecast looks at low temperatures, and there are some 30s in there. We'll check that out and also time out the rain chances we're expecting over the next couple days and whether or not those are going to start out as snowflakes. All that in just a few minutes, Jason.
All right, Ben. Talk to you in a few. The Minnesota police officer who shot and killed an unarmed black man during a traffic stop has resigned along with the police chief there. Investigators say Officer Kim Potter shot 20-year-old Daunte Wright during a stop Sunday. The now former police chief said it looked like an accident as Potter said she meant to grab her taser but fired her gun instead. The resignations come as a dusk to dawn curfew is in place in Brooklyn Center after 2 nights of protests. Meantime, the family of George Floyd broke from the Derek Chauvin trial to stand with the family of Daunte Wright, and they're all asking for a change.
It's a time for change, and that time is now. Minneapolis, you all can't sweep this under the rug anymore. We're here, and we will fight for justice for this family, just like we're fighting for our brother.
The mayor of Brooklyn Center says Potter was not asked to resign, but he couldn't agree more with her decision. After 11 days of testimony, the state of Minnesota rests its case against former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. Kimberly Gill's in the newsroom, as it'll now be the defense's turn to call some witnesses here. Kim?
Jason, good afternoon. Prosecutors argued Floyd's death was the result of low oxygen due to the restraint from police. Well, now the defense is presenting its argument that Floyd's death was not the result of Chauvin's knee on his neck, but rather due to drug use and health issues. A retired Minneapolis police officer and paramedic were called today as the first witnesses for the defense. Both were involved in the arrest of George Floyd. The judge told the jury they can only use the testimony as evidence of the effect opioids might have on Floyd, not as evidence about his character. Also taking the stand today was the defense's use of force expert. He also testified in the trial of the Chicago police officer who shot and killed 17-year-old Laquan McDonald. He believes Chauvin's actions were justified. Listen.
And can you just briefly overview your opinions in this particular case?
I felt that Derek Chauvin was justified and was acting with objective reasonableness, following Minneapolis Police Department policy and current standards of law enforcement in his interactions with Mr. Floyd.
And that use of force expert went on to testify that Chauvin did not use deadly force in his restraint of Floyd. Chauvin faces murder and manslaughter charges. The trial is still going on right now. We'll have a full wrap-up of today's developments tonight at 5. Until then, Jason, we'll send it back to you.
All right, we'll see you at 5. Thanks, Kim. Still ahead, the battle over election reform in Michigan is heating up. Community leaders travel to Lansing with a message for lawmakers. We'll have that story next. And also this.
I'm Paula Topman. I'll introduce you to these womb mates who jumped feet first into COVID as their first year as doctors. See how the twin thing has gotten them through a really tough year and gotten them ready for their new sister act.